Welcome back to another Outdoor Philosophy. Well, today I want to talk briefly about being a Neo-Luddite. What is that? Well, a Luddite is a term that happened around the Industrial Revolution when a group of people were seeing these new industrial changes and saying, we are going to lose our jobs if we're not careful. And so the Luddite groups would go out and sabotage old equipment. They would cause basic chaos and mayhem among industrializing areas, factories, things like this. Anything that would actually cause their jobs to become obsolete. And of course, we're not talking today as much Neo-Luddites as what we're going to see. And I think we're going to see two things branching out. And so one of these that we will probably see another Luddite movement from is because robotics are indeed invading a lot of spaces. You know, especially in the political environment, if we cause the minimum wage to go up to $15 an hour, now it justifies putting automated ordering kiosks in most restaurants. And in my town down here, we actually have, of course, we have the Sheetz gas stations, which is a fairly local company. They're just the next city over is where they were founded. These were the first places I started to see these automated ordering kiosks, and they actually did seem to make a little bit of sense in the context that we're going into a gas station, picking up a bunch of things, going and paying your bill, and then picking up your food on the way out. Made sense. But now we're starting to see these into the local McDonald's and many other fast food chains, which means that they can hire less people to manage people on the front and more robots to handle those things. So as we start to see more robotic technology taking over, we are going to start to see more people rebelling against the robotics in our culture. Now, that is very valid. What I'm talking about, though, today has nothing to do with any of that. So, fun history, maybe that's a video for another day. Today, though, I want to talk about being a Neo-Luddite in the terms of all of the fact that all of our technology is starting to envelop our personal lives. So completely different thing, but I see two potential Neo-Luddite paths. And I'm trying to question in my own brain, am I just getting old and like these new kids with their finagled little stuff? Or is it legitimate concerns that I have? Now, of course, I have my other channel where I talk specifically about the privacy concerns and a lot of these things. So I really do think that maybe I'm just a little bit concerned. In fact, I know that's the case because I can hold technology against the rest of you. In fact, the core audience of those watching Christian or philosophy videos, I probably am a better technological guy than most of you guys are. No offense in the fact that, you know, my phone is running an entirely custom ROM system. I run Linux on as many systems as I possibly can. I have my own custom built home router and, you know, all of these different cool, fun techno gadgets that I actually do have and actually do use. But what I fight against, where this Neo-Luddite streak in my mind comes from, is the fact that a lot of these new devices, they're getting harder to fix, they're getting harder to customize, they're getting harder to choose what information you can have. If you notice all those little things that I talked about, the phone, the router, the computers, all of these things are so that I can control where my data goes. And what we're starting to see is more and more devices coming up that perpetually and constantly connect to the internet, that are always talking to somebody else's servers and always collecting a lot of usage data. And that in and of itself is a problematic thing, especially if we look at the things going on in like Hong Kong, for example, where protesters are being tracked and all they want is the ability to have a free life. And so what we start to see is we have these replacements of all of our different devices that we have all put into one device that's becoming more and more locked down to one specific carrier and one specific company that is being used for everything and therefore collecting all information about you in one central location. That is frightening. So, in fact, I heard a Dave Ramsey caller yesterday. The woman's like, you know, we have all this debt, like $75,000 in debt, and I need a new phone. He's like, is the phone working? Well, I can make calls on it. The camera's not really good, and I have a new baby on the way. He's like, go buy a $50 digital camera. But, he's like, no, you're trying to justify the cost of an expensive phone. You know what she had in mind? She specifically had the iPhone in mind. Yeah, get the awesome iPhone with all of these awesome stuff. And the fact of the matter is this. When we are putting everything in one device, that causes some issues. So I am an advocate of going back and using individual devices for individual things. I mean, if you drop your phone, suppose you're out on a trip and you drop your phone, and you're relying on your phone as your camera and your GPS and your communication device, and like, what do you do? What do you do? Now, simple solutions, I'm a guy of simple solutions. Well, find your nearest Walmart, pick up a $30 prepaid card, and you can pretty much put the thing on there, buy yourself a little cheap phone and all this kind of stuff, and you can get a crappy camera, a GPS device, and the setup. It will work. It would put you in a gap. But what ends up happening is we start to panic, and then we start to spend more money in our panic. We're like, where's the nearest carrier store? How fast can I overnight something to my hotel? And then before you know it, you've lost it. I'm an advocate of splitting your things out. If you want to take photos, get a digital camera. Now, of course, I have a good Canon here that I'm using to record this, which is a good digital camera. Get a camera now. You don't need to get one like this, which is a very expensive camera because it does the 60 frame per second HD video. But get yourself a good digital camera, which you can actually get them now for like $100. Navigation, it is very bad advice to use a cell phone for basic navigation. You leave a carrier area, you have a problem with the network, you will not be able to find your way. Get a map, learn how to read a map, but I do understand the value of having a GPS in the car, especially if you're driving through big cities and things like that. You can't take the time to look at a map every block. And so get yourself a car GPS. They are $100. They pretty much all of them now have perpetual maps, updated maps for the lifetime of the device. Your maps will never be out of date. Use the car GPS. It works where there is no cell signal. It works pretty much wherever you're at. And it's a specialized device that does one thing way better than Google Maps on your phone does. Go ahead and use your camera to take your pictures. Use your phone for basic communication. Now, all of this comes from the fact that recently there was an article about, Google has stopped giving us a lot more free storage space, and as our storage space is running out, they're giving us more and more and more options to buy new storage. And this is a valid thing to think about, because as we are looking at all of the different trends and all of the different things, all of our phones, like if you remember back to your very first phone, I think my first smartphone, it might have had 8 gigabytes of memory. It might have had 4. I don't remember. But of course, back then we had expandable SD slots. But then as we have become more used to just doing everything with our phone, we never clean our phone, we never clear our phone, and then of course we tie them into our online cloud accounts. And if you notice lately, lately, the phones are becoming bigger and bigger and bigger as their base models. I think the first iPhone is it 32 or 64 gig? I forget. I know my first iPhone was 8 gig. And it was more than enough for me because I didn't keep everything on there anyway. But now they're becoming more and more and more, larger and larger and larger phones because they have to transfer all of the data that was on our old thing. And now we have to transfer all of that data to the cloud. And now they want to start charging that. And now we're having a hissy fit that Google shouldn't be doing that. There's actually an online petition of people out there to petition Google to give them back more free data. Why? Go buy a hard drive at your local store, back up your data on your phone on a regular basis, and go back to the organized styles that we used to be a long, long time ago. Remember when you'd go out to the beach with this is like not long time ago, but when digital fan cameras first came out. You went out to the beach, you snapped all your photos, you came home, you put them on your computer, and then you cleaned your camera off, you charged it up, and it's ready for your next go-around. Now we just snap, and we never clean stuff off, and our phones get full, and then we cry to the carrier that they're charging us even more money, and even more money, and even more money, and even more money, and even more money to store all the data that we could be doing ourselves for free if we just plug the thing in. That little cable does plug into your computer and allow you to transfer your photos to your computer, right? So that's kind of what I want to talk about on today's outdoor philosophy. So am I a Neo-Luddite? Am I just getting, these kids and their finagled things? Or am I actually making sense that we need to go back and take a little bit more control in our life? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.